And with me now is Jacques Reland, the head of European research at the Global Policy Institute. Thanks for coming into Al Jazeera. Now, these reforms of the so-called pension privileges, I gather they're going to only affect around about 2% of the workforce. They are a vocal group, this 2%, but are they still powerful?
They can be powerful because they've got a lot of industrial muscle. The most powerful one in there are the rail drivers. But it's true, this reform of the special pension scheme is purely symbolic because it will not have any impact on the finances in the short term. It will have maybe in the long term. In the short term, it will have very little impact on the finances of the French pension system. But because the reform that Alain Juppé tried to promote in 1995 and which led to the demise of his whole package of reforms at the time. So therefore, and it is basically a symbolic appetizer to a big menu of reform which is announced. Some of them precise, some of them still fairly hazy.
So the unions then have a decision to make. I mean, Monsieur Sarkozy has said he will negotiate with them before he goes ahead, but they have a decision to make about whether or not to take industrial action.
It's true, the unions are in two minds about it, whether they should actually make a stand on the first reform there, especially the railway workers who can do a lot of disruption. At the same time, they have to take account of the public climate. In France, a strike works if they get support of the working of the rest of the population. And in that case, at the moment, all opinion polls seem to indicate that about 70% of the people are in favor. And also it was well announced in the electoral campaign. So therefore, I think he has a mandate to implement such a reform.
Well, as you say, the French people elected this president because he was a man who could get things done. The time was right for change, as they say. Did they expect him to do it quite so quickly, though?
Well, up to now, he hasn't done much. Very quickly. Up to now, he's
lots
done
of
the
announcements.
Up to now, he's done the easy bit. All he's done is tax cuts, and everyone loves them. Now comes the time for structural reforms, and that his supporters and employers wanted them. And that's really the first time we've had some concrete structural reforms of the labor market, for example, which are announced, of the welfare system, and cuts in welfare spending too. And that up to now, he was making loads of announcements, but it looks as if he was still campaigning. Now we have reform. The only concrete one really is that one. There's one, the most important measure is the change in labor legislation, especially regarding contracts, the possibility to hire and fire workers more easily, to make redundancy less costly. And there is trying to promote a negotiation. And at the moment, they've started negotiation between employers and unions. And next year we'll have the big reforms, which is a reform of the overall pension system, which will lead to, in order to try to get people to work longer. The main stay of his reforms is to, on one hand, you have two brands. On one hand, to cut spendings on welfare, and the other one is to encourage people, to incite people to work longer and more. That's why we have the 35-hour week, and definitely there will be a in order to get full-time. It's mostly the issue of older worker. In France, only 37% of the 55 to 64 work, as opposed to 57% in Britain. So to try to encourage people,
persuade them that they're going to work longer into life,
to have to work longer in order to get a full pension. But it won't lead to a raising of the pension, the retirement age, because the French politically, the French love it, and they would not like it. Would be suicidal politically to do it.
Okay, Jacques Reland, good to see you. Many thanks for coming in.
Thank you.